Hello everybody, and welcome to the first video of October, which I hope will also be the start of a series of videos for the Retro Entertainment Archive concerning classic horror. And I want to start off the series with a little bit of film history, if you will, in particular the year 1931. Now, this concerns the basis, the building blocks, if you will, for the classic horror genre that we as film enthusiasts know and love. And it consists of three very popular, very famous films, two of which were produced and released by Universal, and one which was released by Paramount Pictures. Now, the first, of course, is Dracula. The second is Frankenstein. And the third is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, those three films, of course, would jumpstart and launch the classic horror genre as we know it. As I mentioned, and also not only Universal but other studios as well will also be contributing during the 30s to the growing list of films that are now quite famous amongst horror enthusiasts. So with that in mind, please join me at the desk as we get into a little bit of film history here involving 1931 and those three particular films. For the first video in the series, all throughout the month of October, leading up to and including Halloween itself, that big day. So please join me, and we'll see you at the desk. All right, folks, here we are, and we're here at the brand new desk that I've bought last month and put together myself. I bought this from Amazon. The old desk that I was using for the previous videos, I was starting to get a little bit in the way and it was starting to get a little bit cramped, so I bought this new one here, put it together, and it's looking pretty good, pretty snazzy, and going to be getting a lot of use out of this thing, obviously. So, here we are to talk about the year 1931 in Hollywood history, and in particular the birth of the horror genre as we know it. And of course, we'll be talking about the three films in question. Of course, Dracula, of course, being one of them. And as well, Frankenstein. All right. These are all the Blu-rays. And also, just get the glare out there, sorry about that, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So those films, of course, we'll be highlighting in this video, but just to give a bit of background for the year 1931, all of the major studios were in the grip of the Great Depression, and a lot of them were feeling the financial pinch, but especially Universal Studios. Just to give a bit of context, though, Universal Studios at that time was swimming in red ink. They were in financial trouble, and they needed a lot of hits prior to 1931 in order to remain financially afloat. They did, however, in previous years, especially in 1923 and 1925 respectively, they had scored two major financial hits, two box office triumphs, if you will, for Lon Chaney Sr. And of course, those famous films were The Hunchback of Notre Dame and also The Phantom of the Opera. They had scored much needed revenue for the studio at that time in those years. Also in 1930, Universal had scored another major hit with the film All Quiet on the Western Front, which was directed by Louis Milestone. It had won the Oscars for Best Screenplay and also for Best Director. And that was also a major financial upshot, if you will, for the studio. And they definitely needed the revenue. But however, they were still trying to tread water financially, and they still needed major hits. And of course, that was certainly true in 1931. Also, just to refer here to something here. Just bear with me for a moment. I'm just going to... all right. Okay, here. All right. So, just some of the major films from the studio system in 1931. I'll just give you a few examples here. The Criminal Code, Little Caesar, which starred Edward G. Robinson. There was also City Lights, which starred Charlie Chaplin. There was also The Front Page, which was a kind of a screwball comedy. A Connecticut Yankee. The Public Enemy, which starred James Cagney. M, starring Peter Lorre. There was also a version of The Maltese Falcon. There was Huckleberry Finn, Night Nurse. There was also Waterloo Bridge, The Squaw Man. There was also Monkey Business, starring the Marx Brothers. And there was also Five Star Final, which also starred Edward G. Robinson, but also had starred in a brief cameo appearance Boris Karloff. There was also Platinum Blonde, which starred Loretta Young, Robert Williams, and Jean Harlow. There was The Mad Genius, starring John Barrymore. There was also Anna Christie, starring Greta Garbo. And also the films, so 3 films, horror films as well, that we'll be featuring. Now, the first film produced and released by Universal Studios was, of course, Dracula, which starred Bela Lugosi and also Edward Van Sloan, David Manners, and as well it had also starred, if I can remember the other cast members, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Helen Chandler, and also Francis Dade, and also Dwight Fry. And with that particular release, it had scored another much-needed financial success for Universal Studios. And, of course, it had launched the beginnings of the classic horror genre cycle. And then, of course, came Frankenstein, which starred Colin Clive, as well as Edward Van Sloan, and in the role of the Frankenstein's monster, Boris Karloff, which had also, with that particular role, had launched his career not only in the horror genre, but also in other genres as well. And it also starred Dwight Fry, and also Mae Clarke, and as I mentioned, Edward Van Sloan, and as well John Bowles. And then, of course, there was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was produced and released by Paramount Pictures, which starred Frederick March and Miriam Hopkins and Rose Hobart. And a particularly interesting feature about that film, however, it was the first horror film to receive an Academy Award for a leading role, and that went, of course, to Frederick March in his dual role as Dr. Henry Jekyll and also Edward Hyde, and of course went down in film history as being a very exciting and great role for him, for Frederick March to be playing. And he certainly earned that Academy Award for the dual roles he played, and was certainly under an intense makeup, and it had almost ruined his face, according to studio legend. The makeup took hours to apply and hours to take off, and that was rather torturous for him. And yeah, it was the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was the first horror film to win an Academy Award, so that was a very good landmark in that regard. And of course, all three films, Dracula, Frankenstein, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, would launch the horror genre. But in particular, of course, these films, thankfully, are preserved for posterity. I mean, granted, of course, they're in a type of format, though, that would be, of course, much better with Blu-ray. I mean, years and years past, they were on DVD and Laserdisc, but thankfully we have these to enjoy on Blu-ray and 4K. And particularly, and I'll emphasize this, physical media is very important. The use of physical media, also the preservation of physical media, that is very important, and I'll be advocating that for as long as I possibly can. And I mean, that doesn't mean to say, though, that I don't have digital copies of certain films or what have you, but I would like to stress, though, to advocate for owning physical media as much as possible. And also, I'll be providing links in the description below to Amazon links, though, so you can check for availability and also to try to get copies for yourselves. I do recommend getting these films, of course, if you're a classic horror fan, like I certainly am. And yeah, definitely get them. They are, like I said, they are the building blocks of the horror genre. And I will be talking about each one of them in separate videos as well throughout the course of the month of October. And yes, that certainly brings us to the end of this particular video. And hopefully I haven't haven't botched it too much. It is the first one after all for the month, and I'll be continuing to create more videos as time goes on. With hopefully each day will be a new video to look at. So with that in mind, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me here in the Retro Entertainment Archive, and please, by all means, please like, share, and subscribe. It will be very important for the growth of the channel. And yes, this will be an exciting challenge for me, though, as I continue to try to create more content, especially in October, leading up to, of course, Halloween. So until the next video, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and so long for now.